Once again, this is Joe from Joyful Noise Productions, here with tutorial video number 2. This time we're going to talk about impulse responses, or IRs as we call them. Now, before we get any further, please do me a favor. Like this video, share it to all your friends, and don't forget to subscribe. Also, do me another favor if you can press the notifications button, so that way you can be informed of every video that comes your way. Now, without any further ado, let's get into it. Now, as I mentioned in the first 2 videos, the Valeton GP200 is an incredibly powerful tool for guitarists. Also, since it has some bass, VST bass models in there, we can throw bass players in there as well. Before we dive in, let us take a step back and let's talk about what impulse responses are and why they matter. In a nutshell, this is what impulse responses, or IRs as we call them, are. They are a way to capture the tone and the characteristics of guitar speakers, cabinets, or acoustics, depending on certain cases, and microphone combinations. Now, the way you want to think of an IR is think of it like a photograph. When someone takes a picture of you in that moment, the picture is representing what you are at that time. Regardless of the emotion, the photograph presents you at that moment. So that's what the idea of what the IR is. You know, the various different types of mic positions, the types of speakers, and even the geometry or the shape, or even the size of the cabinet play a big part in how the IR will sound. This will give the GP200 even more tonality when you add these third-party IRs. So when people talk about these types of IRs, believe me, it does make a drastic sound. When you move a mic further away from the center of the speaker, or what they call the cone of the speaker, or the cap of the speaker, and you get it closer to the cone, it actually changes the sound in the way it's projected. If you get a different type of speaker that may have a different frequency range as opposed to another speaker, or maybe let's take another one, or even the size of the cabinet. You'll hear about a thing called an oversized cabinet. All these things play a deep part in the IR, which creates the tone of the speaker. If you go to my one video that I have where we're talking about speakers, and it does the speaker matter, you can click right up here, right on this tag right here, and you can see the experiment that I did changing out a speaker, and you'll begin to see the difference of what the tone makes when you change out a speaker. So now what we're going to do is we're going to dive right into the unit. Like I said in the very first intro, you need a laptop for this, because that's where you'll be able to. This is where you'll be able to load the IRs from. Remember, this has no Bluetooth whatsoever, so you're going to have a laptop at best. Now, just to kind of throw this out there, you don't really need a fancy laptop. You know, something basic, maybe something like your parents have. You know, just a basic old laptop where you can just load in and out the IRs that you have or want to put into your speaker. So let me kind of just give you some advice about IRs. Now, there are some IRs you can find all over. You know, there's even, like, I'll give you some recommendations. I'll even put the links for some of the places where you can get them. Number one, you can go to Glenn Fricker's channel called Spectre Sound Studios. He has links to his IRs that you can get, which I definitely would recommend. Also, there's another guy called the other John Brown. You can go to his page where he has various different types of speakers that are involved. Now, sometimes you can take advantage of other places where you can find IRs. Okay, I got a ton of them. Maybe one day, once this channel grows and it builds, maybe I'll offload some of those IRs. So let's go ahead, let's take it for a spin. Let's see what kind of tones we can come up with. I do have an amp set up for it, or at least a couple amps, and also maybe another sound, so that way we can load them up and we can hear the difference in the characteristics of each speaker. So let's do this. Now, if you see right here, got my unit. Okay, so everybody see that I'm actually working with the unit. But also, as you see here on the desktop, I got the app pulled up. Now, when you can see that it's based on a dual rectifier, mostly the most sought after, the most wanted amp anywhere. Me, I most preferably will use like EVH styles, or even go as far as using a diesel. I don't like to follow her. Anyways, as you get to see, you got a Mesa Boogie. Now, what we're gonna be using is we're gonna be using my 2002 anniversary Strat, which is by Squire. Okay. One day I'm gonna do a video about cheap guitars. I actually paid $100 for this, and I've had it for 20 years. So that tells you that cheap guitars, if built right, are good. Now, let's kind of start with the cabinet. So obviously, this is where you go with the cabinets right here. So let's start with the typical cabinets as we go. Okay. Okay. So now right here you see that you see that there's the basic Mesa Boogie rectifier 412, and they usually come loaded with vintage 30s. So it does come so it does have a bit of a different sound to it. I mean, it has a good, nice, tight sound. So, as you begin to hear it, okay, yeah, it sounds pretty decent. Okay, you may need to clean it up a little bit, but that's where your boost comes in and stuff like that. However, okay, as you can probably see, let's just say some people want to go with, let's say they want to use a regular Marshall. Now, this one has the old, this is called the old 1980s cab, which has the G12 keys in them. Usually people do mix up their Mesa Boogies with Marshall cabinets, because Marshall cabinets are still pretty solid. Now, as you hear, it sounds a little brighter. It has a little bit more mid to it. It has more of a mid cut. So now we got the other AV, which is your slant. Now, as you hear the lead, it kind of comes up a little bit more. So I'll see right here. Then you kind of go with the greenbacks, or actually these are the 212s. All right. So now, as you get to see, there's a lot of these amps there's a lot of these cabinets that exist. Now, here we're going to kind of use a little bit more difference here. Okay. Like this one right here. This particular capture, or this particular IR, is called the Mesa Boogie Oversized. Now, this is the one that's commonly used in metal, even mixed up sometimes with the 5150 or the 6505, what have you. These are the types of speakers, or type of speaker cabinets that are usually commonly used in metal. So when you turn it on, now as you see, it has a little more, it's still more bass here, but sometimes it has a little bit more of a top end to it that kind of gives it that metal sound. Now, what's common also is what's normally used is what they call the V30. Now, right here, this one has a regular dynamic mic hook to it, so. again, you hear the characteristics of this one here. Now, here's another one. I'm trying to remember which one that is. But this is how this one sounds. Now, as you hear it, there's a little. It sounds a little bit more muddier, not really muddy, but darker. So it kind of eliminates all the high ends, and it kind of gives it that, you know, kind of a little bit some good of a smooth sound. Now, right here, this is another Glenn Fricker IR. Now, this one is a little bit different. He used what they call a certain type of mic. It was done by a company called Lewitt, which has a kick drum mic that has both a dynamic mic and a condenser mic put into one capsule. And one day he decided to experiment with it, and this is what he came up with. So you can tell there's a little bit more clarity in that sound, because this one has both of them has both mics working together. Now, as you see right here, this one right here is called your it's from ML Sound. He's been up there in this type of area where he's been able to make impulses and stuff like that, and he does sell impulses on his website. So let's kind of hear how this one sounds. Now, as you can probably see, there's some meatiness behind it. Now, this one's called the Mesa Greenback. Here's where this one comes in, where this one, supposedly the Greenback is more of a vintage style kind of sound. So let's hear how this one sounds. Okay, so as you begin to hear it, you want to listen for the different types of characteristics that the speaker has. And as you see, the sound changes when you change over the speaker. Now, this one we're going to save for later. We're going to save it for later in the video. You'll see why. This one right here, it was based on. This one's by Seacal, which is a Mexican company. So shout out to them guys. Orale, I would say. So here's how so this one's actually based off of an AC30. So as you hear it, you can tell it's the cabinet changed a little bit. There's a little bit of a different positioning of the microphone, so it kind of has a little bit of that nasaliness that it kind of brings that out. But this IR is more designed for the Vox AC30, which I do have on some of my own personal captures for certain sets. Now this one right here, this is a Bogren Digital. This one Bogren Digital. This one right here is where they use certain types of microphones to kind of capture certain kinds of sounds. See, one thing about this IR, it was developed by a very famous metal producer by the name of Jens Bogren. This one was a freebie, so you can go to bogrendigital.com and you can get the freebies from there. But this is how this one would sound. This one I believe is also another young Jens or this one's actually, this was done by Christian Kohler of Kohler Audio Cult. So you can, he has these. This was came along with the Bogren Digital, but him and Jens are good friends. Because they're both good metal producers, and even despite of one being in Germany and the other one being in Sweden. So how they make that happen is beyond me. So, but here's how this one would sound. So again, you want to hear the difference in these kinds of sounds that come out with different characteristics. So now we're going to kind of go with this last one right here. This one's called the DV777, which is a speaker done by Eminence. Now this one came from a guy by the name of the other John Brown. Okay, like I said, he has a lot of them there for free. You can be able to. I'll do, like I said, I'm gonna link to his YouTube, and you can be able to, kind of go on his page, and you can be able to find all the speakers there. So this is how the DV77, the DV77 sounds like. So now you hear how that one sounds. Now remember, the key of being able to use these IRs is to help you develop your sound. That way you say, oh, what, I like this better, instead of the one that already come in these ones. Even though, as I said, all the captures in here are already good, but maybe you want something a little different. Again, a lot of it has to do when it comes to these IRs is because the microphones are placed differently, different cabinets are used, so you can be able to get the various different types of sounds, as you probably heard. So when it comes to using IRs, obviously the way you do it, you go to the cabs. Okay, so as you see, the first thing you'll come up with is this user IR. Now, as you can see right here, there's a lot of I think you can put up to 20 different IRs. So as you go right here, I think this one's number 17. I think it's 18. Okay, so this is number 18. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click, or I can go right here where click that, and as you see, it comes up with the IR. And it'll take you to the folder of where you have your IRs from. So as you probably see right here, I have this one that says John Brown IRs. Okay, now let's kind of go with something that I've been told so much about, which is the Hesu Demon. Okay, now let's reference. Let's try reference. Okay, this one's the Hesu Demon, so we got to go with number 18. So we're going to load that in, click it, and it says success. So you see right here, now it's right here. Now let's get a whiff of how this one would sound. So again, you hear the difference in the way this one sounds. Now, one thing I think would be pretty cool, if Valeton wants to do this, I don't know if they want to, but I would say get a dual IR loader. There are some programs like the one from, I know, like the Amp Locker from Audio Assault has one. Definitely the Guitar Rig 7 has one. I think gosh, what's that free one that's called? It's done by I think it's done by Emissary, but it's called the NAT IR. they have a free one where they have two different types of where they have two IR loaders, but it all feeds in one signal. Now, when you have something like that, and you put two different types of speakers together, you get even more of a wider sound. And that would something that would be totally nice if this one had it, or maybe if I can find something that can create those two different types of IRs. But again, like I said, you can go shop around if you want, and you'll find different types of IRs that are available. And that's nothing. That is not a crime. Hey, you know, like when it comes to your sound, sky's the limit. But then again, the sky's the limit for those who have a limited imagination. So let's go ahead. Let me show you another IR that I skipped over, but you'll see why. So now, if you look right here on this one right here, if you look right here, it says Taylor 816. Now, what does that mean? This means that this is a different type of IR. This one is an acoustic guitar IR, which is new. This IR I picked up from worship tutorials. They also have some free stuff as well. They have free cabinets, but they also have these free acoustic IRs. So, but if you look right here, right in this area right here, you can see everything's kind of done a little differently. I put the cabinet right here, then I put the preamp right up in front, along with an EQ. Now, why would I want to do that? First, let's knock all these off real quick. Because one thing I want to do, because remember, it's a cabinet IR. You want to make sure the IR, when it comes to the acoustic, hits the IR first before actually going to everything else, because that can really mess with your tone, which you don't want. So this is what it sounds like. Now, as you probably see, it still sounds a little bit of electric-y, things like that. But the moment you put some EQ to it, so as you probably see, I kind of have it shaped a certain way. So when I play it through, it's going to come off like this. So now it's starting to sound a little more acoustic. Now we're going to go to the preamp. Now, as you see right here, the preamp is played a little different. Right here is my EQ frequency. This is what you call your parametric EQ. This one kind of, when it comes to the Q, it kind of opens up a little bit. Right here is your Q gain. This is how much you want to put on it. This right here is a balance between the natural sound and the electric sound. So when you put them both together, it's going to sound something like this. So as you see now, it sounds more acoustic. Now it's starting to really take shape. So when you get these now, like I said, if you're an acoustic, you know, say you're a guy who uses acoustic guitar in some of his songs. This would be the worship tutorial acoustic IRs are the best way to go. You know, you have what you call your dreadnought. You have your McPherson guitar, which is a common guitar used in worship circles. But then you have the Taylor 816, as the one I have right here, because it brings out that Taylor sound in it. You know, sometimes it's hard to really seriously duplicate an acoustic, but if you really work it very well, it's going to sound nice. Now, one thing I also do to kind of give it more of that acoustic sounding is to add a chorus, so it kind of sounds more shimmery and more, and it sounds more flowing. So now, obviously, the typical thing you would normally do when it comes to the more ambience to make the acoustic really spread out is when you add your when you add your spatial effects like your delay and your reverb. So, as you begin to see, IRs come in many forms. Now, there are some other types of IRs, like you mentioned about acoustics, like you can get actual reverb IRs. Well, it'd be cool if this one came with a reverb IR as well, because there's a lot of killer reverbs out there that are IRs that'll work definitely with whatever acoustic or any type of delay you're using with. So, as you begin to see, this is how you would be able to use your IRs. So again, it gives you a plethora of things to look at. And again, this is what makes this thing even more especially awesome. Now, when it comes to I know some people say, well, it did come with acoustic IRs. Yeah, but really, again, they sound like an electrified acoustic. It sounds really bright, and it has a lot of problems. But it's something that but when you get like something like this that comes from an authentic source, it sounds really good. Now, there's one thing I forgot to mention. I should have thought of. This better just hit me right now. So let's go back to the DR. Let's go back to the IRs. You see right here, you got yourself a low cut and a high cut. Now these are like, in a sense, they're like your graphic equalizers, but they're more your filters. For example, when it comes to the low cut, if you want to back off on the bass, you turn it up, and obviously it'll thin out the sound a little bit. Or let's say you want to make the sound more muddy, pull this back like that, and you give it the until you muddy it up to taste. So the IRs can be set up or even be equalized from where it's at. But as you probably see, I really didn't mess with them. I let them, when it comes to the IRs, I let the IRs do the talking. I let my ears tell me what makes a good sound or not. So using the low cut and the high cut frequency filters, you really don't need them. That's my personal opinion. Some may argue, but it all depends on personal preference. Okay, so as you can see here, this right here is the tutorial of all the IRs. Hopefully I explained pretty well how an IR works, but at the same time also gave you an idea of how it would sound if you loaded different types of IRs into your Valeton. So again, do me a favor, like this video, share it to all your friends, and don't forget to subscribe, because I'm really trying to build this channel up. And hopefully maybe you can help a brother out a little bit here. Eventually, hopefully I'll also get some donations. I'm working on that right now. I do have my own Patreon page if you want to support that, but right now I'm just trying to work things out with Buy Me a Coffee, which would probably be a lot easier to work with. So, but again, in the comments, tell me what you think, okay? Because or tell me if there's anything I missed, or if there's something you want me to elaborate. Sure, I'll be more than glad to do so. Because sometimes I'm just covering basically certain stuff that needs to be covered, what I feel needs to be covered. So, again, like this video, share it to all your friends, and don't forget to subscribe. And thanks again for watching. So, till the next video, keep going.